Welcome back to Make It Stick. Let's jump into Anki to start off with. We've got 4 flashcards due. What are the 6 sections and six sections of chapter 6 give you all learning styles? Active learning from the get-go, successful intelligence, dynamic testing, structure building, rule versus example learning, the takeaway. Nice. What is the main idea of chapter 7 of Make It Stick? Increase your abilities in one sentence. Essentially, it's about mindset and characteristics to increase your intelligence and abilities over time, as well as mnemonic devices. What does feeling like you're not learning often signal effective practice? Feeling like you're not learning in effective practice is often a signal that you are learning if you're using effective practices and techniques counterintuitively, as weird as that sounds. You're engaging in effortful learning, spacing and interleaving, which feels harder but produces better long-term retention. My answer could have been a little better. How could it have been better? I could have said you're engaging in effortful learning, which leads to better learning results and better retention. So I'll say hard. What core belief drives long-term skill growth, and how does it reshape behavior and brain structure? Core belief that drives long-term skill growth is the belief that intelligence and abilities can be developed, and that development is largely within your control. How does it reshape behavior and brain structure? Reshapes behavior by incentivizing and increasing persistence, grit, discipline, strategy, embracing failures, taking on challenges, and this all leads to development of brain areas that are being trained. Believing intelligence ability is malleable fuels long-term growth by incentivizing effort, persistence, and strategy. This leads to brain development areas that are worked on / trained. So good. Okay, what did we read about yesterday? Make It Stick. We started chapter 8, Make It Stick. This chapter so far seems to be about, it's very like it's almost like a compression and an overview of the entire book, but with the particular emphasis on practical tips and takeaways. Actionable insights, less on the science and data that was presented within the text. So the first section, there's 4 major sections. The first major section is basically tips for students. And the first tip or strategy is retrieval practice. This should be the cornerstone, the foundation of all your learning strategies. That is retrieval practice. What is retrieval practice? Really, essentially, it's self-quizzing. It's pulling things from your own memory. Now, retrieval practice can be very effective because it shows your weaknesses and shows you where you need to improve so you can focus your attention on your weaknesses. Beyond this, retrieval practice also leads to more cognitively effortful learning and more development and long-term retention. So surely there's a lot more in here about retrieval. All right, some active recall while reading self-retrieval. Cues are like what are the main ideas? What are the new terms, ideas, concepts that I've not seen before? How do I explain them in my own words? How do these ideas connect to things I already know? So that's some of the concepts abstractly, things you can retrieve. Right, the most successful students often have a simple but disciplined strategy. Let's try to. I definitely took more notes than that. So let's see what else I'm missing. So a little bit of growth mindset. Our intellectual abilities can be developed through effort, strategy, and guidance, and that's largely within our own control. Significant learning is often filled with lots of confusion and setbacks and failures, and this shouldn't be a signal to quit or give up or that you're not learning. It actually is a signal that you are learning something significant and developing. So that's a good reminder to me. I like that. Is significant learning often feels weird, awkward, confusing, feels like setbacks. Even though you think you know how to learn, you still have these feelings, so it's good to be aware of that when you're doing significant learning. When it feels too easy, you may be not learning significantly because you're not challenging yourself enough. Other than that, that's good. There's a correlation between the effort of the retrieval and the amount of learning. Making errors in your retrieval practice won't set you back as long as you eventually get corrective feedback and correct your mistakes. Right, they said that retrieval practice is by far a more effective strategy after your first or one or two reading or passes through the text. So a little confused there by what they mean. I've been retrieving throughout this whole book. I could have read this book once or twice just through reading it word by word without retrieving, and then started to retrieve. I could have done that multiple times by now. I've spent, I think this is episode 100, so about 50 hours. And so if this, say, took me 10 hours to read past, I could have read this book 5 times. So maybe I should be spacing out how much retrieval I do, but at the same time, I think all the learning really comes from 90% of the retrieval and 10% of the reading. So it's an interesting idea to think about. What is the optimal amount of reading to retrieval? How often should you retrieve? Should you do it daily? I do it twice a day. I do retrieval from the day before, and then I'll consume new material, then I'll retrieve that, and then retrieve that again the next day, and then get more material. So that's kind of my strategy system right now. It's still abstract whether that's optimal or not, but that's my current strategy. So intuition says that rereading, highlighting, mass practice, these are effective study techniques. Unfortunately, they're not. They're among the least effective study techniques. And quizzing and self-quizzing and retrieval, that is, interrupts forgetting. So lots of notes. I forgot a lot of it. Could have done better there. But we're going to jump back into reading, and then I'll be back to recall at the end. All right. There is a lot there. This chapter is extremely dense. We finished up the section on retrieval. Really, that section was all about retrieval practice being the foundation of all effective study techniques. Then we started the spaced retrieval section, which is the second most important and powerful study technique, spacing retrieval practice. So spacing retrieval practice, spaced practice means coming back to the material, retrieving the material more than once, but doing so after time has elapsed. How often? Well, it depends on the subject, depends on the person, depends on your familiarity and expertise with the material. However, if you want to remember anything forever, you'll have to come back and periodically retrieve it from memory. So, right. Our intuition says that mass practice is more effective and very effective in learning because we can see the results as we do something over and over again. We see ourselves improve. What we don't see is that this is just the short-term memory that's improving, and it's actually an illusion, and it quickly fades after the learning session. This belief in mass practice leads to students waiting till the last minute to cram. Interleaving is also a form of retrieval practice. So what am I forgetting? Or a form of spaced practice. What am I forgetting though about retrieval practice? Because there were more notes than just like the end of the section. Right, I just remembered one. It's very relevant. Attempting to retrieve something, like studying something, restudying something after you attempt to retrieve it actually leads to more learning than if you didn't attempt to retrieve it. So, if I can't remember what I'm trying to retrieve, at least I tried. So then I go back and check. I never check before I try. Right, so by using retrieval practice throughout the course, you won't have to study much when it comes to exam time. You've already learned the material. Just maybe a quick refresher is all you need. And rereading, mass practice, reviewing can often feel more productive than retrieval practice, but it's not. At the end of the day, it's just simply not. Then we got into the spaced retrieval practice section. Oh, nice. We actually did get all that. So that's it for today. We're army crawling our way through chapter 8. This will be a dense one, but it's the final chapter, so it's all right. So that's it for today. Talk to you tomorrow. This was episode 100, I believe, so it's a big milestone. See ya.